Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Warren County Fiscal Court, our special called appeal meeting this morning. We appreciate everyone's attendance this morning. And we'll first start off by calling the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Here.
Esquire Cummings.
Here.
Esquire Williams.
Here.
Esquire McWhorter.
Here.
Esquire Lawrence.
Here.
Esquire Aldridge.
Here.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to our county attorney, Ms. Milliken.
Good morning. We're ready to get started. Just so everyone knows, I did a memo to all the magistrates, and they have in front of them a memo with an explanation with regard to possible motions that they could make. There is a blue document, blue sheet of paper with a proposed motion to affirm the zoning recommendation, meaning you would deny the appeal. And what that means is you want the zoning to go through as presented. You have that in the blue. You have a pink motion in front of you to overturn the recommendation of the zoning, overturn the recommended zoning, and approve the appeal. So you have both of those in front of you with instructions on how to proceed. Okay, before we get started, that's that. You all received a notice of opposition from Judy Schwank. Ms. Schwank and I have been on the phone together this week talking. She had asked for additional time. She has agreed to join Mr. Davenport and the opposition. And so I would like to ask that you give her 20 minutes, give the opposition 20 minutes instead of 10. Just give them additional time. They may not take all of that, but I'd like to offer that. Of course, Mr. Chris Davenport and JAB Holdings, they would also have 20 minutes. And then we'll do 3 minutes for rebuttal and 1 minute for closing for vote. We'll keep all of that the same. I don't know that either will take all of that time. If you all are ready to begin, the first thing I'd like to do, Judge Executive Gorman, is ask Mr. Peterson to approach, because I have been, the question regarding notice has been brought to my attention, and I'd like to ask him a couple of questions. And so what you're going to do is we're going to swear him in, because this is a hearing. So if he will raise his right hand, and you're going to swear him in. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, so with regard to notice, when a individual applies or a company applies for rezoning, and I'm going to lead you here, they provide you with a list of all, what is it, surrounding property owners?
A term is adjacent property owners, so anybody who touches the property.
And where do they get that list?
From the PVA, is official record. They bring that to our office, and it has to be part of the application when they submit that. When we get that list, then we verify through the PVA website the proper names and addresses, and then make that as part of our notification mailing list.
If you define the term adjacent, is there a statutory definition?
There may be a statutory definition. I don't have it in front of me, but generally it's any property that is touching the current property or would be touching if there was no right-of-way or anything in between.
Okay. And you verified the list they provided?
Yes.
And then after you verify the list that they provided and you made sure they got all of the adjacent property owners, then what does the Planning Commission do?
So the Planning Commission, in addition, then finds all the address points within a 200-foot boundary of that notification, of that proposed boundary for rezoning, and then we collect those address points. Even if the property's touching that boundary, it doesn't have to all the way be in that boundary. We get those address points and then mail them to that address to the current occupant, essentially.
And you get that from the PPA?
Correct.
How do you mail it?
So we do written notification, and it just goes through the USPS, and it has to be postmarked at 14 days or earlier prior to the public hearing date.
And you send a postcard?
We do send a postcard, yes.
Is that all the notice you do? You just send a postcard and walk away?
No, that's one of the 3 requirements. Written notice is one, a sign on the property is another, and we have a record of when the sign was placed on the property and take a picture of that for the record. And then we also publish a notice in the legal notice section of the newspaper as well. So we did all 3 of those. Additionally, we kind of have a pre-notice process that goes above and beyond the requirement. We have a tentative agenda that happens approximately 3 to 4 weeks prior to the meeting, where we post it on our website, and then that goes to our social media accounts on Twitter and Facebook.
Any other notification?
I think that
That's
pretty
it.
much covers it, yeah.
Okay. I have no further questions with regard to notice. I just wanted him to explain that. Anyone else have any questions? Do you, Judge?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Okay, that's what I was gonna
I'm
let.
sorry, I can't hear you because you're faxing me, so
Yes.
the people that, how far out do you go? Or I didn't understand what you were saying. How far from that property do you go?
200 feet beyond the boundary. So if they're rezoning a whole field, for example, as in this case, then we go 200 feet beyond that, and then any property touching that 200-foot boundary would also get the written notice.
And you're saying that nobody was on your list that was notified that was not on that, those parameters?
Not by the written notice, no. That would be one of the other 2 notices would be the sign on the property or in the newspaper.
Okay, well, we did ask for, we did a records request, and there are at least 2 properties on there, I think, that are over maybe enrolling or past there that don't touch the property.
They would have fit the 200-foot boundary.
But then if that's true, why wasn't the property across from the church, not Miss, Ingrid Cartwright's property? Why wasn't the property that's exactly across from the church, why weren't they, they're not on any of this. I know because.
They would have been beyond the 200-foot boundary.
They what?
Beyond the 200 feet.
I know she got a notice, but.
Any other?
For Freedom Farm.
All right.
Ms. Strike, do you have any other questions? Any other questions?
No, I just
Okay.
want to clear, it's the 200
Thank you.
boundaries.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Davenport, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to get started. The opposition will go first. And if you would, it would make things simpler to write down your question, if you have one, and when they conclude, then ask them. Okay, because sometimes interrupting them will mess up their time. So I'm going to take time, and I will start after they are sworn in, okay? Okay, who's
Mr.
going to start?
Say, Mr. Davenport.
Okay.
I swear to tell the truth.
I
do.
Thank you. Mr. Davenport, for the record, if you'll begin, if you'll state your name and your address, please.
Bob Davenport, and I live at 1311 Plano Rich Pine Road.
Thank you, sir. And when you say your first word, I'm going to start.
All right. Morning, Judge, Squires,
Morning, Mr. Davenport.
and Ms. Milliken. As I mentioned to Amy, my wife Tara and I live just south of the property on Plano Rich Pine Road. We're not adjoining, but we're close. We're just around the S-curve. And I appreciate the support of our community today. Our community is not opposed to subdivisions. There are at least a half a dozen subdivisions within a mile radius of Plano Fire Department. In fact, most of our residents live in subdivisions. We do not oppose this subdivision because it is good farmland. It is not. Nor do we oppose it because of future construction, noise, and dirt, and lawnmowers, and barking dogs. That would fall on deaf ears, I'm sure you would agree. Our opposition is more than that. It is based on 4 areas of concern paramount of which is traffic safety on one of the most dangerous stretches of roadway in the area. I personally went to the auction of this property last March the 3rd. Not many showed up, and few were bidding. Our local farmers would not bid on the land. They knew of the inherent problems and wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. It took an hour for Joe Houchins to bid up the sale to JAB. They paid $1.1 million for land that sold for $190,000 12 years ago. What I saw and what the developers saw were quite different. They saw 70 acres of rolling hills with a large pond in the middle, a white farm fence, and a subdivision with 65 $500,000 homes. What I saw was traffic hazards on Plano Rich Pond Road, 70 acres filled with sinkholes, a cave system protected by the Kentucky Cave Protection Act, a landfill dump full of construction debris and Native American hunting grounds. We have no animosity toward JAB. They are businessmen trying to make another $1 million on a subdivision. And they don't care about traffic safety in Plano because they don't live there. There are no traffic problems on Mount Ayr Circle. Perhaps their due diligence did not reveal the inherent problems in developing this land. Construction debris, filled-in sinkholes, a cave system. No other subdivision in the county has faced so many obstacles. If this project is approved, we question how many homeowners would build on a land full of sinkholes and a landfill. Thank you. We have other witnesses.
Yeah. Okay, if you could state your name and your address for us.
I'm Philip Carter. I live at 985 East Henry Gold Road.
All right, Mr. Carter, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thanks for coming today.
I'm a retired professional engineer and land surveyor, and I'm here to speak to the issue of the traffic safety on the Plano Rich Pond Road adjacent to this property. This is of a major concern to the Plano community. The section of road adjacent to the property is very dangerous due to the existing sight distance issues. There are 3 hill crests and 1 horizontal curve with limited sight distance is just on this section, which combined with the narrow pavement is responsible for numerous accidents in the past. A 35-mile-an-hour speed limit has a stopping sight distance of 250 feet, a standard not met on this section of road. The first hill crest south of the Plano Church has a sight distance of 140 feet. The second hill crest has a sight distance of 130 feet. The third hill crest has a sight distance of 145 feet, and the horizontal curve at the very end of the property has a sight distance of 150 feet. Currently, Plano Rich Pond Road is paved 16 foot wide, compounding with the existing sight distance issues as well as the steady bike path streaming from the Plano Park. The road is quite perilous. Considering that the proposed 65 houses will increase the local traffic about 300%, which is already a bad situation, will become exponentially worse. The intent to widen the road to 18 foot is still 6 foot short of the 24 foot required for all subdivision streets. This will not improve the extremely bad sight distance, and it will not make it safe for school buses to drop off and pick up kids from the new subdivision. Therefore, we are requesting this zone change be denied until these safety issues can be resolved. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address.
I'm Ingrid Cartwright, and I live at 677 Plano Rich Pond Road.
Ms. Cartwright.
Yes. Getting all my
Sure.
equipment ready.
I know.
Sorry.
You
Do it all
you
at
didn't
once.
bring your assistant evidently. Do you, Swear to tell the
I
truth,
do.
the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Thank you, Ms. Cartwright.
Can you tell me quickly how much time I
Yes,
have?
you're at 14:01, 14.
So I have 6?
You do as much as you.
Oh.
You all have 20 minutes total.
Oh my gosh,
All up to
okay.
you.
Well, I will, again, okay. Thank you so much for meeting with us today. We really appreciate your time, and I'm going to be speaking quickly because we are so short and limited. But I'd be happy to forward a written copy of what I'm going to say in case you miss anything. And also, I'd be happy to forward images to you. So there are 3 reasons that we opposed, in addition to the traffic problems, but rezoning this prime farmland, which is classified largely as on Plano Rich Pond Road. Number 1, the Planning Commission's rezoning decision is based on incorrect geophysical data. The site characteristics section in the application does not mention the very large, locally well-known cave complex underlying the property. The immediate area is a particularly volatile karst landscape that has experienced dramatic incidents of spontaneous sinkhole or cave collapse within yards of the proposed subdivision. 2 large cave entrances and possibly a third, which are not marked or addressed in the plans, exist along the property line. These important geophysical factors are also missing from the comprehensive plan, the map tools on the Planning Commission's website, and in plans used for future land use in Plano. Within a half-mile radius of the property, mistakes include the missing cave entrances along JAB Holdings land and a neighbor's septic tank wrongly flagged as a cave entrance. These errors were included in planning decisions in 2017 for future land use. Before rezoning can be considered, the future land use map for Zone 4 of the Plano area needs to be reviewed, reassessed, and revised based on more accurate geophysical information. The rezoning application is also not in compliance with the goals set in the Focus 2030 Comprehensive Amendment. Rezoning this prime farmland rich with historical and cultural significance is in direct opposition to Objective LU 2.6 of the Plano 2030 Comprehensive Plan Amendment passed in January of this year, which aims to consider revisions to zoning regulations to promote alternatives to large lot sprawl in the rural area, and in Objective LU 2.9, identify techniques to protect the character, the county's small municipalities and rural settlements from development that is out of character. This project is out of character from the agricultural nature of Plano Rich Pond Road, which is distinct from the existing rural density zoning that exists in the neighborhood off Plano Road. The proposed entrance to the subdivision is half a mile from the nearest subdivision entrance on Plano Rich Pond Road. The rezoning application incorrectly states the property's cultural and historical significance, and the Planning Commission's directives violate Kentucky laws related to caves and archaeology. One of the large caves associated with the property is historically important in Kentucky and nationally in the scientific community. The Plano Saltpeter Cave is one of 2 sites in Warren County where saltpeter, which is derived from bat guano, was mined in the Civil War to produce gunpowder. Current Plano residents report seeing historic wagons in the cave still standing in wait. Saltpeter was an incredibly lucrative industry, and source caves were mined extensively, and because of this, the land atop mines caves can be more vulnerable to collapse. It is in this part of the property that the Commonwealth also rates the land as very limited for septic. The same cave has been a source of scientific research. Specimens of a cave beetle in this Plano Saltpeter Cave are in the collection of the Carnegie Museum of Natural History in Chicago and continue to be used in scientific studies as recently as a 2020 master's thesis in biology at WKU. The approved rezoning is actually a felony violation of 2 Kentucky laws. Perhaps the deepest layer of historical significance is the wealth of ancient artifacts discovered around the property independently by nearly every neighbor. Since 2017, I have surface collected, documented, and researched thousands of artifacts that appear around my property, and they seem to reflect evidence of a large-scale lithic production center where large tools were created and used for hunting, chopping, woodworking, and food production. I am not an archaeologist, but as an art history professor at WKU who has spent endless hours investigating and researching these objects, I feel comfortable suggesting that most of these objects appear consistent with tools and technology from the early and middle parts of the Archaic period, circa 8,000 BCE to 5,000 BC. I'm working with the Kentucky Archaeological Survey to pass the baton to professional archaeologists. By approving rezoning it after being alerted to the archaeological significance of this area and directing the developer to widen the road, fill in sinkholes connected to a historic cave, the Planning Commission and developers are in violation of KRS 715, part of the 1962 Kentucky's Antiquities Act, that makes it a felony to knowingly destroy any place where articles of value in scientific study of historic or prehistoric human life and activities can be found, and the Kentucky Cave Protection Act 4.33.873, which makes it a felony to, among other things, disturb and damage cave surfaces or materials found inside caves, including archaeological remains. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Are we over? Are we done? Is that,
That's good.
do they have any time left? Okay.
Can I have this passed around so that y'all can take a look at it?
Is it something that was presented at the original
It has to do
hearing?
with the environmental impact.
But was it something presented at the
This
original?
was not presented because we just got the notice of it.
Yeah, then you no, I'm sorry. This is a
Okay.
hearing on the record, so only
Okay,
things
so-
presented at the hearing.
Let me just state my objection to that for the
Ms.
record.
Schwank,
Okay, so if you'll
Just-
state your,
yeah, state your name and address.
My name is Trudy Freeman Schwank, and I live at 1890 Light Avenue in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Great, and you swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I was born and raised at Plano, next door to the Butler family. All of you probably know Marie Smith. She was a Marie Butler Smith. She grew up out there with us. A little older than me, but growing up in that community seems to have done something to your soul. The 50s, 60s, and 70s were a beautiful time to be a child or a young adult out there. I'm not here to tell you that I expect those tight times to return. Time moves on, and for some of us, it is moving much quicker than we would like. You do not grow up in Plano as the child of G.H. Thumb Freeman or the grandchild of Dr. Galen and Mrs. Laura Kelly Freeman without some of who they were being ingrained in your character. My husband's Dr. William Schwank, we brought him back to Bowling Green. He came back with me because I said, I'm going home to where my family is. And he practiced as a neurosurgeon here from 1985 until about 8 years ago. For 20 years, he was the only neurosurgeon in this town. I stopped him. We were going to build at Plano on the land I owned there. I stopped him because I was afraid of the roads. He was going to be going back and forth all the time, and it's just too dangerous. The whole road, all the way down through there. As a child, I went in the cave system, and I did state that that day. I went in the cave system because it was cool, and I didn't have to work. I didn't have to milk cows if I was reading. My mom and dad always told me that if you read and study, that's what we want. I'm telling you all this because I think it is because it's very important for you to know why that happens, why what happens in Plano is so important to not only me but to Warren County. We raise strong families here, and in particular strong women, except right now. I need you to understand that I was not notified of the zoning change, and I don't care what the process is, an abutting landowner should be notified in a way that you have some receipt back, because you have a lot of absentee landowners. I happen to live in Bowling Green. At this time, though, I happen to be in California trying to get some help for some personal problems. But anyway, my sister called me 2 nights before this hearing and told me what was going on. Obviously, I didn't see the signs posted or anything. I know that this court has the ability, for good cause shown, to waive the fact, it's in your all's rules, it's in the rules, that you can waive my not filing my response in time. I was in the hospital. I came back and I had to be hospitalized. I'm not a zoning and land use lawyer. I'm not an environmental lawyer, but I do have a degree in biology and nursing as well as law. I've done since 2008 just exclusively immigration work, mostly in the federal courts. I do enough law to know that the CP serves notice on landowners and it's deficient in accomplishing its purpose. They can do what they have set up to do every day, but it does not accomplish its purpose if you don't actually have some sort of return back that those people got it or the mail came back. The reason I know that I didn't get it, even though my name's on the list, because I'm a lawyer, and those of you in here who are lawyers, you know how we guard our mail. Because we can get something in the mail and it can cost us a client's case because we didn't get it. And so we guard our mail. So at my office building, we have 2 lawyers there. The mail goes to one box. It doesn't go up to all the separate boxes. It goes to one box. One person opens it, and it is all categorized and then put into everybody's box. So I didn't get it. I called the office every day while I was gone to find out what had come in also. I never got a notice of anything from there. If I had, I'd probably come home earlier. That probably wouldn't have been to my benefit either. I did come home the day after I was notified. The next night was that meeting. I had no time to prepare for anything and ended up back in the hospital. We did ask for a records request from CCPC. And the records that we got back showed my name on it, but it never showed, there were some problems with it. We were given 2 different records. What we asked for was the form that's on the internet that the applicant is required to fill out and hand to CCPC. And at the bottom it tells you how to go about doing it, go to the PVA and get their records and everything. When the person that was working with me, when she went, they told her that no, they did it. She was told they did it, at least in this case. I don't know if that's because Mr. Volkert is on the commission, it was a personal favor, but if it was, it's not right. And also, if JAB Holdings did supply that information with their application, we were not given a copy, even having asked specifically for what they provided. We're never given it. Then we had a case where we had 3 addresses that we were given. We checked with PVA. They didn't even exist in Warren County. One of them was 5-something Plano Rich Pond Road. Well, that's right across from my land. The park is at 400. I would be at 500 if I had an address, but I don't yet. The church is at 600. So that would be where my property is, or across the street where I also have property. So if they're going to put in non-existent addresses, what's to say they didn't just fail to send me mine? I think that the attention to detail fails at CCPC. We are, though, if we have to reply, we have to send certified mail, return receipt requested to everybody. It's not required for the people with the greatest interest in property rights out there, that there be some sort of notice that you got something back, say yes they got it or they didn't reply.
And Ms. Schwank, I'm giving you a notice, you have 30 seconds. Sorry.
Well, I have new information that I just want to let you know that I'm not going to talk about what we have, but we have what could be considered to be emergency information that you all do need to know. So I'm renewing my request again for a de novo hearing, which is what should have been to start with. But it needs to be heard. This affects Warren County and a lot of people.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. Swain?
Or Mr. Carter,
Or
Ms.
Mr.
Cartwright, or Mr. Davenport.
Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Chris Davenport.
Good morning, Judge, Magistrates. Chris Davenport, 921 College Street, and I swear to tell the truth.
Thank you.
I
a
said you
ple-
don't have to swear.
It's a pleasure to be in front of you all this morning. As an aside, I grew up arguing with Bob Davenport. It was just a different Bob Davenport, so this is a little bit like deja vu for me.
I love it.
I'm here on behalf of JAB Holdings this morning. I'll be shocked if I spend 20 minutes in front of you. You have granted a hearing on the record. I will curtail my comments to that record. I will not go beyond that record. I know that you all have received recently, in the last few days, some supplemental information. I would urge to remind you that really pretty much all of that information was not in the record. So if you have questions about that, Ms. Milliken is more capable than I am in answering those and what you should do with that. But I would suggest that should not be part of your deliberations. The application, the hearing that was before the Planning Commission, let me first, a few highlights. It was a unanimous recommendation of the Planning Commission, and I really want to stress that to you magistrates. They were unanimous in their decision to recommend this for rezoning. Prior to that hearing, the application had been recommended but for approval by the zoning staff. That's a relatively recent development. The staff has begun, at the commission's request, recommending applications for approval or denial in about the last 7 or 8 months. This application came to that planning commission with a recommendation for approval by the staff. The application was flume compliant. We don't maybe talk a lot about the flume, but we have every property in the county has two classes. It's got a zoning class and a flume class. This property was the request was consistent with the property's flume designation of rural density residential. And I'll tell you that in your zoning ordinance, rural density residential is the least dense of all residential flume classes. In other words, rural density residential properties, we predict somewhat that they will be developed in the least dense way. And the application requested RE class, which is in fact the least dense single-family use, acre plus lots. So that was something that obviously that was discussed on the record. That was the application, that my client was requesting no more than 65 single-family homes sitting on about 71.4 acres. So frankly, I wasn't surprised that the staff recommended it. And I wasn't surprised that the Planning Commission voted to recommend it unanimously. There has been, on the record, we haven't really heard it much today. We did hear some echoes of this. There were concerns about septic systems. And your record is clear that septic systems have to be approved by the local health department. They come on site, they test the soil, they test the site. And I would just suggest to you, it's a little bit, some of the arguments you've heard don't quite make, I think, sense in a couple of respects. One is, the other Mr. Davenport's admitted to you today that most of this opposition live in subdivisions in the area. Their homes are presumably really no different than these homes. Their homes sit on septic systems that were approved, that are operable. Their homes sit on the same karst geography that this 71 acres does. The 71 acres doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's surrounded by the same geography. It's surrounded by single-family homes that are on septic systems. This 71 acres would be served by the same traffic system. Actually, let me rephrase that. It'll be served by a better traffic system, because one of the conditions of this application was to improve the road to the request and recommendation of your Warren County Public Works Department, Josh Moore and his staff. So, and I don't fault the opposition for that. This is pretty common in zoning hearings. It's not uncommon at all that you get to a zoning hearing and some of the opposition is, well, that road's not safe. And they're really, the opposition's not informed that one of the conditions of the rezoning is improvement of that road. They may complain about square footage of a home, and they're not aware that one of the conditions of the zoning is a minimum square footage of these homes. So sometimes at the Planning Commission, it's an information process too for the neighbors. So, you know, the opposition generally has talked about traffic, not uncommon. I think the Planning Commission hears that just about every 2 Thursdays on something. And like I said, luckily, the process now is involved, the transportation folks, whether it's the city, the state, or the county, get involved early, and they tell the developers, here are the improvements that we're going to require. That developer has one of two options. They agree to those improvements, or they tell the staff, we don't want to do that. We're going to present a study, explain why we don't have to do that. So the comment I made in the meeting was, the transportation folks require you to build the church for Easter. They look at your development and they say, what's the highest impact you can have on that roadway? And they want the improvements to satisfy that highest possible impact. And that's what happened here. So traffic concerns are not uncommon. Topography and geography are uncommon. Again, it may not be every 2 Thursdays, but I bet once a month someone's at Planning Commission pointing out that we sit on karst topography. That's a fact. That's not unique to this 71 acres. That's not even unique to Warren County. That's the whole region. I dare say if you picked up a map and you threw a dart on it, you're going to be pretty close to a sinkhole, current or future or past, if you're in Warren County. It's a challenge that the developers have here. It's not unique to JAB. It's all the developments here have to work on that. So our zoning ordinance and our Planning Commission, they have certain requirements on how you deal with sinkholes. And those requirements aren't plucked out of the air. Those are consistent with state law, federal law, so forth and so on. So just like every application, those issues were addressed. I told you I wasn't going to spend much time, and I really, every lawyer says that, and very few of them carry through with it. But the fact of the matter is, if you look, and not to get too much in the weeds, if you look in your staff report that was in the record, specifically on page 7, that is where you're going to find where the planning staff, prior to the hearing, has presented the Planning Commission all the various ordinance policies and comprehensive plan policies that are somehow triggered or involved with an application. And they set out for the Planning Commission, these are the policies that we believe the application complies with. And then they're going to have a column that says these are the policies the application does not comply with. You're going to find on the page 7, 14 of those policies are complied with. I make sure I got the page right, because I'm looking at some of the magistrates and it doesn't look like what the page ought to look like. Excuse me, it's page 8. It's page 8 of the staff report. And then on the right-hand column, you're going to see 7 policies that have an asterisk next to them. And what that means is those are policies that the staff looked at, and they basically said that's a judgment call for the Planning Commission. That being said, those policies applied to really 2 issues. One was the setbacks along the road. The other was a variation in facade materials for the homes. You'll see in your minutes that the applicant, JAB Holdings, at the hearing addressed those concerns with 2 additional development conditions. One was requiring a 50-foot setback for the homes along the road to match what's existing. The other was a requirement of varying front facades, so the homes look different. As you drive down the street, there's variation. With those conditions having been agreed to after the writing of the staff report, I would submit to you that there's not even a judgment call here. That we've got 14 policies in compliance, or excuse me, 21 in compliance and none out of compliance. And the fact of the matter is, the job of the fiscal court and the job of the planning commission is to review these applications for that compliance. I want to read to you something that came out of the minutes, because I think the opposition here can be summed up by what was attributed to Mr. Bob Davenport at the hearing. Now, this is not a quote. These are summary minutes. But the clerk of the planning commission staff wrote down this as the gist of one of Mr. Bob Davenport's arguments, really his summation. The commission's decisions should not be based upon checking boxes for compliance with existing codes and regulations and ordinances. But it is about common sense, good judgment, safety, the environment, and quality of life. The reason I wanted to point that out to you is that is essentially an invitation. It was made to the Planning Commission, and I think it's being made to this body today. It's an invitation to ignore your zoning ordinance. It's an invitation to ignore the comprehensive plan and the policies that are enumerated thereunder. It's an invitation not to do the job that's really before you, but to decide the issue on some other matter, on some other basis. And I would submit to you, if you do that, what's the point of the zoning ordinance? What's the point of the comp plan? What's the point of this process? The result would be arbitrariness. Arbitrariness would not be supported under the law. So I would urge you, I'm going to try to draw your attention back to that staff report, back to the ordinance, back to the comp plan, back to all the conditions the developer agreed to at the request of the staff that caused compliance. I have zoning cases every month. It's rare that I argue about acre home lots for single-family homes. The opposition does not want development in Plano. They don't want dense development in Plano. I would submit to you, applications like this are a godsend if you're opposed to dense development. Single-family homes on acre lots prevents future development of 4 homes per lot per acre, of multifamily development. Again, the application, as commented by the staff, recommended for approval by the staff, recommended for approval unanimously by the Planning Commission. I think it satisfies all the policies. That's all in the record. I'm happy to answer any questions y'all might have.
Any questions for Mr. Davenport? Okay, well,
Well, I don't know that you would ask him to clarify, but he's not a witness, he's an attorney.
I don't think I'm subject to
Yeah,
cross-examination. I
exactly.
think is what Ms. Milliken
But
suggested.
yeah, what I prefer how we set that up is now Mr. Davenport or whoever from the opposition now has 3 minutes to address those issues or additional issues if they'd like.
Thank you all.
That'd be
Thank you.
perfect.
Is that
Thank you.
correct? That's,
Okay, it's time for rebuttal.
Yeah.
So you have 3 minutes, tell me when.
Okay, I'm going to take 1 minute, and Dr. Cartwright's going to take a couple
okay,
minutes.
thank you.
I disagree strongly with Counselor. I'm sure you understand that. When we went before planning and zoning, we were treated in a very condescending and arrogant manner by Commissioner Warren. He shut us down. You know, you have been very generous in our time, and we appreciate that. But we don't feel like we got a fair hearing before planning and zoning. The other thing, I think, Counselor, you missed the point on the traffic. The only way you're going to cure the traffic problem is to take out a couple of those blind spot hills and take out 2 90-degree curves. And if the developers want to do that, so much to them, because we'd like to get that taken care of. It's critical to us right now. So that's all that I have. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Cartwright.
I'll speak really quickly, but I just wanted to reiterate the points that I made in my statement before, that weren't addressed by Mr. Davenport, which is that this is based on incorrect information from the GIS that was used in making the flume for the Plano area, and so that needs to be reassessed. It doesn't address the existing cave system that's on the property that contributed to even the large sinkhole, probably cars collapsed at the cemetery next door, swallowed a bunch of graves. So this is a really volatile landscape. It's not a normal karst environment. It has two really famous caves, or one really famous one is part of it that has existing Civil War historic features in it now, and to destroy the road is in violation of two acts, laws in Kentucky, the Kentucky Antiquities Act and the Kentucky Cave Protection Act, both of which are felonies.
He brought,
One minute.
he brought up the filling of the sinkholes. I just want to say that the filling of the sinkholes, I would like to know how it's done and who checks it. That's my concern with this development, is who goes on there and actually walks on their property and sees what's going on, because there's a huge cave entrance, huge, that the entrance is on two properties, Mark Thomas's property and this one. If you walked on the property, you'd see it. It's not a tiny little hidden cave. I mean, it's big. I know, because I spent half of my life there, I think, as a child. But if you're going to be filling all those sinkholes, because there's a lot of them on that property, it's more than average out there, more. There's an aquifer under there, and all the water comes from everywhere and runs under there. All we ask is for the evidence, the true evidence, to be put in front of you all. Because believe me, if you don't address it now, you're going to address it in circuit court or federal court.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Schwank. I appreciate that. Mr. Davenport?
To answer kind of the rhetorical question that Ms. Schwank just proposed, your development condition 13 sets out that the sinkholes or any work done on the sinkholes, the mitigation sinkholes, is to be work specified by and approved by the Warren County Public Works Department. That's who investigates, that's who oversees, and that's who approves. Thank you.
All right.
And, okay, now you have 1 minute for closing.
Okay, and we'll, the next phase of our hearing is 1 minute for any closing arguments. You're welcome to, or if not, we'll take questions. Mr. Davenport, care anything else, or you're welcome for sure.
Well, again, if you go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission record, it's true that I stated that this is more than checking the boxes. There's a lot of boxes to go through for Planning and Zoning to approve this, and they have a good staff. I will say one thing, that I reported personally to a member of Planning and Zoning, I can't remember his name right now, that the previous owner was dumping hazardous materials, including concrete debris, asphalt, possibly toxic materials. And I reported that to him, and he came back and said, no, we didn't find any violations. Whether he reported to EPA, I'm not sure. But there definitely is a lot of debris under this land that you cannot see. The only way you're going to find out about it is when they start moving dirt. You're going to find animal bones, probably Indian bones, and you're going to find a lot of construction debris. They tore down, meaning the previous owner, tore down the old homestead, the Coley place, and buried not buried it, they dumped the debris on the back side of the property, and it's still there.
Thank you, Mr. Davenport.
I think it's all been said. I appreciate the time this morning. If I heard Ms. Milliken's colors right, I think the request I'm making is on the blue sheet.
And I'm happy to give you all a copy. I should have done that earlier.
And thank you all, everyone, for their comments. This time, I'll ask if there's any questions from the magistrates, either to Mr. Davenport Sr. or Mr. Davenport Jr. We never have this happen too often, but no, we're all, but to either to Mr. Davenport, Mr. Carter, Dr. Cartwright, or Ms. Schwank, is there any questions for them, or to Mr. Davenport for the developer. Are there any questions or concerns anyone has?
Doug, I have one question really for Ben, if you could come back up, please.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Many years ago, we had a overstudy done over the entire Plano corridor. And it was multiple hearings and multiple things. And just want to verify, I know that was just casually, briefly mentioned in the hearing on that night, but just want to verify, just make sure I completely understand, that the recommendation that came from that Plano corridor study that was done several years ago, that this property does fall within the flume of the residential development, that was what designated for that particular parcel of land.
Correct. There were several meetings leading up to the adoption of that specific plan. Those were in 2017. The adoption was in October of 2018. One of the recommendations was the flume changing to what you currently see for this application, and be happy to answer any.
And that was a multi-hearing process that went through, right?
Yes, sir. So the first meeting was May 9th, 2017. The second one was August 2nd, 2017. The third one was August 22nd, 2017. The fourth one was September 26th, 2017. The fifth one was the Planning Commission hearing on October 18th, 2018. And then we had a memorandum of understanding between the Planning Commission, the county, the city, and Kentucky Transportation Cabinet signed on November 2018.
Thank you very much. That's my only question.
Can he answer my question? I just want to know, did they address the cave system, the actual cave that's on that property?
No specific caves on any specific property were addressed with that
But
study.
it's not there, right?
No, we just didn't address specific caves on specific property.
So, yep. All right, any,
Sinkholes.
thank you, Ms. Schwank. And not, I understand everyone's that we are going though to follow the rules that are set in front of us. From that standpoint, we've been very clear about having all sides heard, and that's extremely important to this body for sure. Any additional questions or anything else of any nature from any magistrate? All right, we'll, next order of business is a motion. We'll entertain a motion on the floor.
Since nobody's brave, I'll make the motion that we affirm the recommendation from the zoning commission. All, looks like all appears from even testimony today and from the hearing, all conditions were met for this to be moved forward, and that's the motion I'm going to make.
Second.
So there's a motion by Squire Cummings to affirm the recommended zoning. There's a second by Squire Lawrence. Any additional questions or comments from the fiscal court? If not, will clerk please call the roll?
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you call Williams? Did she call you, Rick? Okay.
All right. If there's no further business to come of this special hearing, we are adjourned, and we are going to take a 10-minute recess between this and the start of fiscal court. Pledge to the flag. Squire Aldridge.
If you'll bow with me and pray. Lord, we humbly come before you today, this body of this governing body. I pray, Lord, that you would give us the wisdom of Solomon, that you give us the strength and the courage of David, and most importantly, Lord, that you give us the heart for this community of Jesus. I pray, Lord, that everything that we say and do in this place today, that it would glorify you. I ask that you would lead us and guide us as we make decisions for the citizens, for the city of Bowling Green itself, and most importantly, the county. Let us be a shining hill, a place of refuge, and we ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Of the United
All right, will the clerk please call the roll?
Esquire Lasley.
Here.
Esquire Cummings.
Here.
Esquire Williams.
Here.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Here.
Esquire Aldridge.
Here.
First item is approve the minutes of the fiscal court meeting on July 27th, 2023. Motion by Squire Cummings, second by Squire Lawrence. Any corrections? If not, please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter. Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 5, approve the work schedule for the Warren County Road Department. Motion by Squire McWhorter, second by Squire Aldridge. Question or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Next, approve of personnel changes for Warren County.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Lawrence, second by Squire Williams. Discussion or question? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 7, approve second and final reading of ordinance 2350, rezoning property located at 0 Plano Rich Pond Road, formerly 974 Plano Rich Pond Road, from agriculture to residential estate containing approximately 71.4163 acres and presently owned by JAB Holdings LLC, care of Jody Allen.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Lawrence, second by Squire Cummings. Discussion or question? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
If it pleases the court, I'm going to move, I'd like to move item 25 and 26 up to the next order there. Item 25 is approve the Special Tourism Project Fund request from the Bowling Green Area Convention and Visitors Bureau in the amount of $97,860 for the Public Arts Committee of SkyPack's project for 6 I Love BGKY industrial art pieces to be installed at various locations throughout the county. And we have Sherry Murphy, Executive Director of the Convention and Visitors Bureau, here today with us. Can you explain a little more? Sherry?
Hi, I'm just going to be very brief because I know you all have quite a few things on your agenda today. As you know, this is part of the process for special tourism projects funds that we set aside every year in our budget to do community projects that impact tourism. And actually, the previous Judge Buchanan came up with this idea as part of the Southern Arts initiative that was announced earlier this year. The signs are very large. You have examples, I believe, in your packets of what those will look like. The colors will vary, even though you see the one example there, from all 6 locations. And part of this funding that the Tourism Bureau has agreed to do is to pay for half of the signs for each location. The location pays for the other half. They fundraise, some have fundraised, some had the funds on hand to be able to participate in the project. So I'm just here today to ask you all to approve the funding that our board approved last month.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Lawrence, second by Squire Lasley. And I will tell you that this special tourism fund is always approved while their board looks at that. Those transfer of funds are always approved by this body.
Yes.
That's why it's here today.
And they're generated from tax revenue from just the hotels.
From hotel tax, correct.
Just make sure I understand, this is not necessarily coming out of our general fund budget. It's coming from the tourism.
100%. This is not in any relation to the general fund of Warren County. It's a great question. This is the special tourism fund that's funded at the CBB by a portion of that bed tax for that. But when they spend that money by ordinance, we're to approve that expenditure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
And then item 26 related to that is approved determination the amount of $16,310 to Southern Kentucky Performing Arts Center, and actually Ask Inc. is the name for that as well, for the purchase of one I Love BG public artwork, and that will be placed at Buchanan Park. I'll tell you before we take a motion on that money as well is coming from the SkyPack Tax Fund, not from the general fund.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Lawrence, second by Squire Williams. Discussion or question on that? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, resume back to our normal agenda. Item 8, approve second and final reading of ordinance 2353, authorizing a lighting agreement between Warren Rural Electric Cooperative Corporation and Dove Point Phase 1. Motion by Squire Cummings, second by Squire Aldridge. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 9 is approve second and final reading of ordinance 2354, authorizing a lighting agreement between Warren Rural Electric Cooperative Corporation and Blevins Farm Phase 2. Motion by Squire Cummings, second by Squire McWhorter. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 10, approve second and final reading of ordinance 2355, rezoning property located at 3731 and 3789 Gotts Hydro Road, a portion of which from agriculture to residential containing approximately 3.49 acres and presently owned by Blevins and Blevins LLC, care of Chris and Merritt Blevins. Motion by Squire McWhorter, second by Squire Aldridge. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 11, approve second and final reading of ordinance 2356, rezoning property located at 14222 Louisville Road, a portion of which from agriculture to residential estate containing approximately .14 acres and presently owned by Mike and Ashley Buttram. Motion by Squire McWhorter, second by Squire Aldridge. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 12 is make part of the record the 2022-2023 participation report for Parks and Rec. If there's no objections, that document will be entered into the record. Item 13, approve determination the amount of $4,246 to Comfort Systems USA for repair of a burned-out motor on an AC unit at the tennis facility. Motion by Squire McWhorter, second by Squire Lawrence. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 14, make part of the record the 2022 CPI-U index pursuant to recycling and solid waste franchise agreements effective August 1st, 2023. This is a standard issue in that solid waste thing. So but on this, we will take a motion. Motion by Squire Cummings, second by Squire Aldridge. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 15 is approved determination the amount of $284.65 per month for 60 months contract with Lang Company for a copier scanner for the Judge Executive's office. This is a state price contract and is the best evaluated quote. Motion by Squire Aldridge, second by Squire Williams. Discussion or question, and this is replacing our current copier scanner we've had for quite a while. Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 16 is approved determination amount of $22,950 to Roy Hunter CPAs to perform the audit for Warren County audit for fiscal year 2022-2023. This was the lowest and best quote. Motion by Squire Aldridge, second by Squire Lasley. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley. Yes. Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams. Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 17, approved determination, the amount of $4,151.54 to Delbert's Body Shop for repairs to a drug task force vehicle that was involved in an accident. The driver that struck the vehicle had no insurance. 3 quotes were obtained. This was the lowest and best. Motion by Squire Aldridge, second by Squire McWhorter. Just be more, that's fine, Tommy. Come on up here, Tommy, and tell us about.
My frustration. This guy was also driving on revoked. In 21, he was sentenced to 2 years for meth. In 22, he got 4 years for stealing a car in Barron County.
So how's he out?
Exactly. And for driving on revoked, when Trooper Loving was around, we locked you up, we put you in jail for that, at least that day. As Amy would tell you, we can't do that anymore. He hit actually 3 cars, including ours, same one that was hit by the deer. Josh really thinks that's an unlucky car, but
Jinxed.
anyway, I just want to express my frustration. It's something we see all the time. If this guy was in prison where he should have been, then we would have never had an accident. But the system is broken, and I'll be quiet with that unless you have further questions.
I know you're wondering, what is Tommy thinking?
Yeah. But very good question. Why was he out? And we could ask 2 circuit judges that question.
Okay, well, that's the.
Yes, sir.
I always hesitate to have Tommy at the microphone, but this is an accident that we need to take care of, so.
Yeah.
Do we have a
We do.
motion already?
Yes, sir. We do need to repair the vehicle.
Yes, all right. No more comments, but any other questions? Okay. If not, please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 18 is approved determination amount of $9,984.48 to Kenway Distributors, Inc. for a Tomcat floor scrubber for the Warren County Regional Jail. This is a Kentucky state contract pricing and will be paid for out of the Securus Capital Improvement Fund at no cost to Warren County. Motion by Squire Aldridge, second by Squire Lawrence. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 19 is approved determination amount of $2,750 to Arnold Consulting Engineering Services for engineering work for the Jody Richards Safe Rooms. Motion by Squire Lawrence, second by Squire Lasley. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 20 is approved determination amount of $21,018.88 to Barron County Business Supply for Stormwater Department office furniture. This is the Kentucky State pricing contract. Motion by Squire McWhorter, second by Squire Aldridge. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 21 is grant authority to Stormwater to advertise for bids for Romanza Johnson Water Quality Improvement Project. And before we talk about that, we'll have our Stormwater Manager, Nikki Kohler, come forward.
Good morning. We are very, very excited about this project. It's a pretty large-scale project, all paid for by our fee in lieu of post-construction funds. We are going to, you're familiar with that park, there's that low water ford. We're going to remove that and put in a constructed riffle, which kind of helps control the water changes. But then there's also significant stream bank erosion. So we're going to put in a variety of different mechanisms that I won't go into, but along a significant part of that inside of the park. And then we'll do some park improvement things because we partner with the Parks Department and we do a lot of streamside educational field day events out there. And we want to make sure that we have good access and like a walking trail and things like that. So we're super, super excited about it. We hope to start in the fall and then we'll be finished before kayak canoe season starts up in the spring.
It's a great project, thank you. Any questions for Nikki?
Just curious, are we still using our traditional advertising models? How we, besides just the paper, where else are we advertising this for bids at?
Usually the paper, and then we'll put it online, and then there's some specific, because this is a water quality project, we're going to make sure we send it to specific contractors that are qualified for that type of work. Part of this bid is not just the price, it's also the qualifications to make sure that they're qualified to do this type of water quality work.
And you did answer one of my questions I was going to ask you about. So that when that's being constructed, that would be shut down for about 6 months?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. All right, we have a motion for that. Motion by Squire Aldridge, second by Squire Cummings. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 22 is authorize judge executive to sign all related documents for the 2024 litter abatement grant application for solid waste. Motion by Squire Aldridge, second by Squire McWhorter. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 23 is approved first reading of ordinance 2357, rezoning property located at 0 Cadence Lane, a portion of which from agriculture to RS1D single-family residential containing approximately 5.4 acres and presently owned by J. Allen Builders, Inc., care of Jody Allen. Motion by Squire Lasley, second by Squire Lawrence. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 24 is approved the first reading of ordinance 2358, rezoning property located at 535 and 5A2 Pleasant Hill Road from residential estate to agriculture containing approximately .04 acres and presently owned by Tammy Weldon and David and Jennifer Maupin. Motion by Squire Cummings, second by Squire Aldridge. Discussion or questions?
It's rare to see something go back to agriculture, which is a nice thing to do.
Thank you for pointing it out. Exactly. All right, please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 27 is approve order 2321, forming a nonpartisan Warren County Election Education Task Force and to appoint Magistrate Scott Lasley and Tom Lawrence as co-chairs.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Cummings, second by Squire Williams. Discussion or questions? We'll have more information about this at the August 31st meeting. Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for agreeing to serve. Item 28, approve resolution 2317, implementing a tax rate for Warren County for fiscal year 23-24 on real property at 14.5 and 1/2 cents per $100 of assessed value, 17 and 27 100 per 100 of assessed value on personal property, and 16 and 2/10 cents per 100 of assessed value on motor vehicles and watercraft, 0.00025 cents for franchise bank deposit taxes. Motion by Squire Aldridge, second by Squire McWhorter. I would like to say that one thing that's very important here, the county, our personal property tax rate is lowered from 18.62 cents per 100 to 17.27 cents per 100 at real property rate. So that is a tax decrease for the coming year.
Are the other taxes?
Those all remain the same, correct? Yes. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 29, award bid for portable toilet, hand washing stations, cooking oil, and quarterly sewer line cleanings for all parks to Caveland Environmental for $129,480 per year. That's a 24-month contract with an option to renew. This was the only bid received but did not increase from the prior year. Motion by Squire Cummings, second by Squire Aldridge. Discussion or questions?
They
Please
have
call.
done a good job for us.
Yes,
They really have.
they have. it's a specialized product, but they are very, I think Chris would attest to that, very attentive to whatever is going on out there, so.
And they did not increase the rate for the past 36 months.
Right. All right, please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 30 is award bid for the installation of security fencing at Michael O. Buchanan Park to Newcastle Fence in the amount of $79,706.21. 3 bids were received. This was the lowest and best. Motion by Squire Cummings, second by Squire Lawrence. Mr. Comer?
Yes, sir. Fiscal Court, I want to make you aware that when we submit our budget, we submitted it this year for right around $6.1 million. When we do it, I begin the budget process in December of each year. We try to be very, very lean. On average, our budget is about 50% lower than the national average per capita expense. In Warren County, each resident pays about $44 per year for our service. Nationally, it's about $98 for a community our size of 137,000 residents. So what we do is we do have a capital projects plan. We've kept up with that for several years. There are actually 6 expenses that are kind of lingering out there. These are 2 of those expenses. The other expenses are some storm damage items that we have not brought to you all yet in regards to storm damage from Ed Spear Park that will probably exceed somewhere around $100,000. We're hoping to be able to get some insurance backing on that. We also have some additional security concerns based off some security issues that we've had with violence in the park, a camera system upgrade for 2 of our regional parks. We've held off on that because of other expenses, trying to live within the realm and the budget that we're given. And then also some additional maintenance issues that we're having at some of our facilities. We're trying to defer those out a little longer and trying to do some work in-house with demolition, things like that. In regards to the 2 fencing quotes that are on here, we felt that based on the development at Michael Buchanan and at Basil Griffin Park, and with about 2 different alarms, we have about 2 alarms go off each week at our regional parks. The majority of the alarms go off at Michael Buchanan. Those are burglary alarms and also facility alarms. We're starting to experience on the Nashville Road corridor more homelessness that's coming into the parks. We've found that in our tornado shelters. We've found that in our maintenance facilities, areas around the park. And we feel that now is a strategic time to try to get the fencing, despite it not being a budgeted amount in our current fiscal year budget, to try to get that up before the residential project is completed. The same thing with the Basil Griffin Park fencing, which is on here. That was actually approved by fiscal court to proceed with. We had some expenses last year's fiscal budget to try to balance out and not go over. And so we deferred that up until this fiscal year. It was not put into the special projects fund, but we feel that right now we are requesting that fencing be put up simply because you can drive out there this afternoon and it's coming down. We have trespassing that's going on from our park into private property. The homeowners have requested it, and so we're trying to help alleviate some of that problem. I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Comer?
Greg, this is coming out of our reserves from our general fund, or is that, we got plenty of money in the general fund to cover these 2 expenses?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's in the reserve for transfer line item in the budget.
All right. Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 31, award bid for installation of security fencing at Basil Griffin Park to Savea Landscape Services in the amount of $58,313.41. 3 bids were received on this as well. This was the lowest and best bid. Motion by Squire McWhorter, second by Squire Lasley. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 32 is award bid for AED first aid supplies to UniFirst in the amount of $36,663 per year. This was the only bid received. Motion by Squire Lawrence, second by Squire Williams. Discussion or questions? Chris, what was that What was that price last year?
So the way that the contract works is this is a evolving amount. What the number that you have is based on the previous 12 months and the rates that UniFirst gave for our current usage of our cabinets. And then we purchased the last contract period, all the AEDs within the system, as well as all of our oxygen tanks that we have at all of our regional parks. So based on their new pricing list that they submitted with the bid, it should be, if we're at the same level that we were the last two fiscal years, that number, that 36,663, is directly based off their numbers in the bid and what the usage has been over the past 12 months. But it is in check with what we've spent the last 24 months, the last two budget cycles. One thing in regards to that, this year, having the proper medical equipment and the training is because of violent acts we've had at the park. We now train all of our staff on tourniquet use. We also have advanced bleeding kits for trauma that may happen at the parks. We actually had to use one of those advanced trauma kits, bleeding kits, at the Aviation Heritage Park last week. We had a door, not we, but the new museum actually had a door that collapsed and fell on a volunteer. Because of the trauma bags that we have in our trucks, we were able to stop the bleeding. EMS, the medical center, actually is going to most likely accommodate two of our employees for their fast action. They stopped the bleeding. It was about a 6-inch laceration on top of the head, and by the time EMS got there, all the blood had stopped bleeding, and the person ended up being okay. So we don't like talking about these things, but in the world that we live in, our staff, all 90 of our employees, are trained, American Red Cross First Aid AED certified, tourniquet use, bloodborne pathogen, and emergency oxygen use. And unfortunately, we do have to use it sometimes.
Right. Well, I think the court remembers vividly 3 or 4 months ago, we had a gentleman here that's life was saved by one of our, Alex Biggs, one of our employees who used AED to bring a gentleman back to life. So it is an important part of it, but I think it's also not only the magistrates want to know more about that, but the general public as well. These are the expenses that we have of running county government to ensure the safety of all the citizens when they're using the park. So thank you. Any other discussion or questions? All right, please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 33 is grant authority for Parks and Recreation to advertise for 10 mobile light towers for use at Moss Middle School and other fields throughout the parks system. Motion by Squire Aldridge, second by Squire McWhorter. As you remember, this is one of our initiatives that was in this year's budget to invest as a partnership with the Warren County Public Schools, a setup that we're going to do behind Moss and behind James Creek. Chris can speak to that, but it's pretty exciting what we're getting ready to happen over there.
Yes, sir. So what we're doing is we're trying to expand the county parks footprint in the old Morgantown Road, Russellville Road corridor. If you can get to Warren County Parks, we've got all kinds of cool stuff for you to do. Because of Courtney Stevens, our partnership with the library, our partnership with the Warren County Public Schools, we're hopefully soon to be entering into a partnership with Boys and Girls Club to be able to expand services in that part of the county. This summer, we serviced over 10,000 youth in our Thrive and Rec on the Run program, taking recreation to kids that can't get to the parks. This initiative with the school system is going to allow us to basically set up a football field, soccer field, lacrosse field, recreational activities on the campus of Moss and Jennings Creek to allow both those schools, Lost River, Warren Elementary, and Rockfield, to have a place on that southwest corridor side of town to have a fun place to come and play. And so also today in the personnel changes, we did request the permission to advertise for a full-time recreation leader that would be kind of spearheading that movement over at Moss and Jennings Creek, as well as a part-time recreation leader to help expand our services and programs that we're doing throughout the community. So. And we did play soccer yesterday on the soccer field that we painted, and we're working, by Monday we should have the football field ready, and this will enable us to play 7 days a week under the lights with the towers.
It's a big improvement at that area and a much needed for that area of our county. Yes, sir, Squire Cummings.
These are going to be mobile light towers, so will they be deployed 12 months a year, or will they be 6 months a year? Or
so right now, what we're doing is we're in need of 6 additional ball fields system-wide, and then we have 10 ball fields that are in need of major renovation in the next 2 to 5 years. And so we've actually had several tournaments Over the past 60 days, we had a 40-team volleyball tournament up at Ephraim that was played outside. We're booked up with all of our tournament dates for 2024. This will allow us, one, to provide Moss Middle School and Drakes Creek with the ability to play night games 7 days a week, both soccer and football, having 2 fields at a time going. And that's the primary purpose. The secondary purpose is if we have weather-related issues, if we have security issues. We do have 2 light towers currently. We have a total of 6 that we use basically for security purposes and for lacrosse and soccer usage down at Michael Buchanan Park, as well as trying to complement with 1 tower each our soccer and football fields up at Ephraim White Park. So it's a great problem to have. The public is playing, and we're trying to be a little bit more adaptive and a little bit more flexible. And if we have an open space and we have an event or we have a group that wants to utilize our services and they want to partner, just like Warren County Schools, Jennings and Moss, we want to be on the front of that tip to be able to help provide that service. And these towers are going to do exactly that. They're programmable, so if we want them to come on at 6:30 at night, stay on till 10, there's no staffing that's going to have to go back at 10 o'clock to turn them off. They'll pop off, they'll be good. And then in the Caveland environmental contract that was just approved, that includes handicap accessible porta-johns, hand washing stations. We already have bleachers there. We're working on getting 2 shipping containers there. We're going to store all the equipment in-house, on-site between the schools. We're working with the local artists to paint the containers up so they just don't look like military surplus containers. One container is going to have the logo and the mascot of Jennings. The other one's going to have the logo and mascot of Moss Middle School to help instill some pride in that program, and we're super excited about it. I'm actually jumping out of my seat here because I think it's just going to open up a whole nother level of opportunity that we haven't had for that part of town. So we appreciate your support.
And once that gets finished, we're going to have a tour, have the fiscal court have a tour out there. It's a fantastic program that's going on, and appreciate fiscal court and that support of that. It will change the lives of a area of town that needs help and needs our input. So thank you all for that.
Is that also where the Kiwanis doing that sensory?
Yes, it kind of in
garden
the
there too,
back,
right?
Yes.
So, yes, currently right there, we do have a musical sensory garden that has been installed on the walkway right before you get to the bridge. And beginning Monday, we're working with the local church and have gotten permission from the powers to be and the property owners. We're going to be creating a memorial for the 7 family members that passed away during the December 2021 tornado. It'll be on the right-hand side of the bridge, and then our musical garden is about 25 yards east of that, and so we feel that it's going to be a really nice memorial for the family, a really nice memorial for the community. We've worked with Bowling Green City Parks, the schools, and different community members to make that happen.
Yeah, it's a good question. There's been a great partnership. Again, just talks about the exceptional nature of our community, always coming together, different agencies, and making that happen. So it's a ginormous improvement in that area, so looking really forward to that. So any other questions for Chris? Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 34, approve resolution 2318, implementing tax rates for the special districts. Warren County Public Library, real property 3.9, personal property 4.38, motor vehicle and watercraft 4.30. Warren County Soil Conservation District, real property 0.25. Warren County Health Department, real property 2.9, personal property 2.9, motor vehicles and watercraft 2.9. Warren County Extension Office, real property .600, personal property .7400, tangible inventory .600, and motor vehicle and watercraft .600. Motion by Squire Aldridge, second by Squire Williams. Any discussion or questions?
Are these remaining the same also?
Yes. I know Courtney Stevens with the library is here as well, if you have any questions for her, but they are, so. All right, please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 35 is approve easements for school bus turnarounds at 1513 Wayland Road and 291 Lakeview Road. Motion by Squire Aldridge, second by Squire McWhorter. Discussion or questions, please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, will the treasurer please report the claims?
General fund, $703,005. Road fund, $134,248. Jail fund, $422,577. Stormwater fund, $40,170. Grant fund, $3,600. And ARPA fund, $540. Be happy to answer any questions.
Make a motion, we pay the claims.
Motion by Squire Cummings, second by Squire McWhorter. Please call the roll.
Esquire Lasley.
Yes.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Williams.
Yes.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Sheriff?
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Sheriff. All right, I know Ms. Yates is out, and Jailer Harmon is not with us either. He's currently at the driving course. Not for himself, but for his youngest, so we'll say a prayer for that. All right. Mr. Comer?
Judge, just wanted to update the court that there'll be two things that you'll be receiving in the next couple weeks. Is we've been working to reassess our security plans in our facilities and then also in all of our parks. And so we are taking some actions that will go into effect this fall for our fall and winter programs. And so at the next fiscal court meeting, we'll have that on the docket to get those new actions taken care of. We've met with all the leagues, and so we're letting them know of the actions that we're taking to hopefully make for a safer play environment. I want to thank Sheriff Hightower for allowing us to have Deputy Bailey and his crews. When we do call, they're always there helping us out. And then also next week on Tuesday, there will be a special coming out on KET in regards to youth sports violence, and they reached out to us and wanted to talk to us about some of the things that we're doing, some of the different measures that we've taken, and how we're trying to keep our kids and families safe within Warren County. And so that should be a really interesting article coming out.
Great. Thank you much. Mr. Moore? Ms. Kohler? Hello, Mr. Pearson. How goes your world? Okay. Yeah, that's right. Mr. Peterson? Thank you for all the excitement. We appreciate you as well. No. I will say, you do a great job. We're proud to have the Planning Commission staff. Rachel, good to see you. They do a fantastic job, and we appreciate the partnership that we have, so thank you for that. Squire McWhorter?
That was good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Squire Aldridge?
I'd like to make mention the Browning Volunteer Fire Department will be having their annual meeting on August the 19th. There'll be an ice cream social. It'll begin at 6 p.m. and then their meeting itself will start at 7. Invite everybody out there to that. Should be a good time. Great ice cream, I know for sure.
So we're allowed to come for the ice cream and then dip, or should we stay for the meeting?
Oh, I would stay for the meeting.
Okay, that's fine. I'm playing, that's right. Okay. Anything else?
Good, thank you, Judge.
I know you're afraid to ask.
Oh,
me.
no, I would, the judge gave me the eye. I failed to recognize and I appreciate, two of my daughters are here today.
Oh, didn't even notice them.
Yes,
That was
thank
very
you.
kind of you.
Thank you for correcting me and taking care of that. But yes, I'm glad to have them here today and understand the goings-on of fiscal court and better understand exactly how parts of the county operate and function.
It's good to have them with us today too. Squire Cummings?
We have a competing event on, unfortunately, on August the 19th. The Boys Community's annual barbecue and ice cream social afterwards. It'll get started around 5 o'clock and it'll go around 8:30. But this Saturday, in 2 days from now, Woodburn's having their annual big event down at the Woodburn Ballpark. There'll be food vendors set up and games and all kinds of it's a wonderful event. I would encourage everybody to come out and attend that event. It's always lots of fun, and that's from 6 to 9 this Saturday, the 12th. A couple other things I want to pass on. I had a good friend of mine, his father passed away, former Bob Hancock, who was principal at Cumberland Trace for years. Just pray for their families as they go through this mourning process of him passing suddenly. And last but not least, I'd be remiss by not asking for us to always keep our children in mind as school started. County started yesterday, city schools will start next Tuesday. Got a chance to tour the new Bowling Green High School facility, which for me is a difficult thing to do, being a county guy, but I have a son there, it's a junior, and if you never get a chance to go over and see the new Bowling Green High School, it is absolutely an amazing building and great learning opportunities for kids that are fortunate enough to attend Bowling Green High. But we want to pray for those kids and their families during this whole school year. I want a special thanks to Sheriff Hightower and all the work and diligence getting ready for all of our SROs. I'll probably jinx myself. I have yet to get my first call about a traffic complaint, but I'm sure that's coming.
It's early.
Anyway, but we need to always keep our children and keep our eyes and ears and everything open, especially in school zones. Again, there's a lot of excitement at the starting of the beginning of the year, and I want to just kind of throw that out there. We should always remember them in prayer.
Great.
All the time.
Thank you, Squire Cummings. Squire Williams, you take a tour of Warren Central or anything since Ron had to go over to Bowling Green?
I'm not going to take any shots.
That's right.
But I am looking forward to the start of high school football season. I love high school football, so go Purples.
That's right.
I will call attention to the fact, too, that the Tri-Fives are in Bowling Green this week, and it's a great tourist event. Would assume that all of Warren County citizens would welcome our visitors while they're here and enjoy the car show.
Great reminder. We have so many great events just going around there and finding out there is something to do for everyone in this community, and it's fantastic. But we always want to be hospitable because those could be our future residents and people that live here as well. So thank you for that. Squire Lawrence?
All's good, Judge.
All right, Squire Lasley?
Well, Judge, in addition to Bowling Green and the county schools getting back at it, the WKU starts a week from Monday. So the first-year students are arriving over this next week.
Yes.
The honor students are already here. And so certainly we understand the importance of WKU to the community and future economic development. So it's an exciting time on the Hill.
It is. Our community changes considerably in the month of August, for sure. And so having schools back in, but then Western here is obviously an important thing for that. I know the convocation's coming up with Dr. Caboni next week, and they'll get started with everything there. So thank you for that as well. Ms. Milliken?
With schools being back in session, school buses are on the road. We remember to watch the school bus stop arm. Stop means stop, as Brett and I say. So please be mindful of children entering and exiting the buses.
It's a great video, by the way, and Warren County Public Schools did. Our Warren County Facebook page shared that of the sheriff and Ms. Milliken reminding everyone that. I would like to, it pains me to do it sometimes, but to say I appreciate Ms. Milliken and the direction and information that she's given this fiscal court, this body, for the last 2 weeks on a delicate matter. We appreciate the citizens and their ability to come forward and express their concerns, but to do that in the appropriate way, and we appreciate your leadership on that, Ms. Milliken, and it means a lot to all of us for sure, so thank you. That's all you're getting, so that's fine. Treasurer?
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Deputy Director, Deputy Judge Executive Downing, good to have you here. That's right.
I want to just kind of second what some said about schools coming back. It's always an exciting time, nerve-wracking for those in education. But I want to thank this body and Sheriff's Office, the SRO program that you all continue to expand. As a former educator, that is a great thing, not just for a safety feeling, but also the relationships they build with kids in those schools. It does wonders for our community. And I really enjoyed your all's video, Ms. Milliken, Sheriff. It was great. I just feel like our young people are one of our best assets, and so thanks for what you all do to keep them safe.
Thank you. Ms. Cummings?
Thank you, George.
Fantastic today. How many takes was that video, Sheriff? One? Okay.
No doubt.
One long one. I wouldn't say how long you were out there, just how many.
Brett had a really long call. I did punch this for Brett.
Wow. That was great. We appreciate everyone's attendance. And again, I think today, if you were here earlier, it is a great function of government to be able to hear the opinions and the information from everyone's concerned about issues. And when we live in a democracy, that is a golden standard that we do. The one thing I will remind everyone, one of the greatness of our country is following the rule of law. And so what I will commend this fiscal court for being able to follow that and be able to participate in today's appeal hearing before our fiscal court meeting. And so thank you for their hard work and their diligence on that as well. Our next fiscal court meeting is actually August 31st, 2023. That one will start at 9 a.m. and we look forward to that. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Squire Lawrence, second by Squire Cummings.
123 in a row.
That's it. We are adjourned.